Start. All right. Do you want? Oh, thank you for hitting the record button. And Becky, I want to give a quick spiel at the beginning, but I also think we're a small enough group that I recognize a couple of names in here, but not totally sure where they're from. So I wonder if uh, it's possible to do like a quick round of introductions for where everyone's from. Is that something that's worth doing?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go from east to west. So from who is the furthest east, and then just your name and where you're from, and then we'll go to the west. So I think that means that either Hilda or Susan's going to be first, and then Ray is probably going to be last. So we'll have to kind of sort ourselves accordingly.
The sun comes up in St. Croix as the easternmost point of the US. So yes, we're in the Virgin Islands.
Okay, thanks, Susan.
Hilda, Teresa, Puerto Rico.
All right, is there anyone between Puerto Rico and Ohio?
That'd be right.
Brenda, where are you from? Oh, Lopez, yes.
Hi,
Lopez,
I'm
Washington, D.C. Oh, I'm sorry.
oh, go right ahead. Brenda Bernier from Harvard Library, so Cambridge, Mass.
Lopez Matthews from the D.C. Office of Public Records and Archives.
All right. Let's see. Any other East Coast folks? Mid-Atlantic, I think. New England. Okay. Well, Becky, I think you're east of me.
I can turn my video on quick. Hi, I'm Becky Jolson. I am with CoSA and excited to hear about this topic today, actually.
And Becky is based in Columbus, Ohio,
Yes,
which
I'm in
is
Columbus, Ohio.
slightly east of where I am. So I'll go next because I don't think anyone's between me and Becky. So I'm Eira Tansey, and I'm located in Cincinnati, Ohio. So who is to the west of Cincinnati before we get to Karen or Helen?
Hey everybody, I'm Carol Kussman. I'm at the University of Minnesota.
And I'm Christina Miller, and we've got other staff in here with the Missouri State Archives, so we're in Jefferson City, Missouri. Woo!
Woo! I bet we met you at some point during the annual conference in St. Louis.
Yes, we were there.
Yes.
We were there, so.
Oh, we missed Joy. So Joy would have been in our East Coast contingent. Joy, we're doing east to west introductions.
Yes, sorry, I was coming from another meeting. I'm in Florida, so that does squarely set me in East Coast. I'm the executive director of CoSA. I think I probably know most of you, but I'm really excited to sit in on this conversation.
All right, so let's go back to, I think we had someone, I think our westernmost person, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, I don't have a map in front of me, so I don't know if it was Missouri or Minnesota. I'm not sure. I think Missouri is west of that, but I don't know for sure. Who's west of that?
It's directly down. Yeah.
Okay.
Minnesota is the hat to Iowa, which is the hat to Missouri.
Yeah.
Sorry, Christina's put her head down at my metaphor.
I think technically.
Okay, so do we have anyone in sort of the Mountain West states? Okay. Speak now or forever hold your peace. I believe, okay, so if we don't have anyone in Mountain West, then I think we're getting to the West Coast. So Julie, it's great to see you. I know Julie. So Julie's in California and is reporting that they are on a ill-equipped computer. So okay, so now I think we get to a lot of our other partners in the CoSA AWARE project. So Karen, are you the next or is it Helen? I think it's Karen.
I'm next. Yep. So Karen Gray, Alaska State Archives.
Aloha, Helen Wong Smith, University of Hawaii, consultant for this.
I think that I might be the next person down in American Samoa. So talofa from American Samoa. I'm James Himphill, Archivist of American Samoa.
Hi, I think I'm next. My name is Ray Munya. I'm the cinema archivist at Saipan, or the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. So I'm from the future. It's 6 a.m. Wednesday morning here. Thank you.
It never gets old when folks from the Chamorro time zone tell us they're saying hi from the future. I love it every time. Did we miss anyone before I go into my spiel? Anyone else who's joining us today that we didn't get to hear from in my geographic charge across the country?
I missed the geographic charge. I'm Jamie Awalt from Tennessee. I'm in Nashville at the State Library and Archives.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Okay, I hope we got everyone. So let me do a brief introduction, and this is very, very casual. My name is Eira Tansey, and with Helen Wong Smith, we are the consultants for the Council of State Archivists AWARE project, which is AWARE is an acronym that stands for Archives Working Across Remote Environments. And over the course of I can't do math, the last 15 months or so, Helen and I have been working with basically a constituency of CoSA that is represented by territorial archivists. So that would include Hilda, Jim, Ray, and a few others, as well as some representatives from other entities that are somewhat connected to either having non-contiguous geographic experience, so that would be Karen, and also entities that do not have statehood status, so that would be Lopez in Washington, D.C. And this originated as part of an IMLS grant that was awarded to the Council of State Archivists to really understand some of the needs and specific circumstances of these unique locations that sometimes archivists who are working on the mainland or the lower 48 sometimes aren't sensitized to. So just to give everyone a very brief crash course into what this project has looked like, everyone who is involved with this project came together for an event at the Council of State Archivists annual meeting in St. Louis last year. And so we had the opportunity to meet everyone and really develop some questions that would guide Helen and mine's site visits out to all of the locations that were part of this. So just to recap what those locations were, and I'll do them in order, and Helen will correct me if I get them wrong. We had Puerto Rico, Guam, Northern Mariana Islands, American Samoa, Alaska, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and then Washington, D.C. So we did those site visits from November. Hilda was our first in Puerto Rico, and then our final was Lopez, I think right at the end of April in Washington, D.C. So we've really racked up some frequent flyer miles as part of this project. But I think it was really important for the Council of State Archivists to really have people going out and meeting everyone who is a partner in this project in person to really understand and see firsthand some of both the challenges and incredible accomplishments that our colleagues in these areas are making. So as part of the original project plans, we wanted to have a couple of webinars as part of our final deliverables for this project. And one of the things that was very apparent in our work, and for those of you who aren't familiar with some of my work, I have sort of a research specialty in climate change and cultural heritage. So I am especially interested in sort of the environmental conditions that affect the work of archives. And so, as you might imagine, all of these places that we visited are all really on the front lines of climate change. They're all experiencing often hurricanes, more frequent rain events, all sorts of things that everywhere in the United States experiences, but these are places that have often experienced really significant events firsthand. But in addition to those significant events, there's also just kind of the general, what some people would call the weirding of weather. So weather that, 20 years ago, there might have been sort of a predictable rain cycle, a predictable monsoon season, a predictable kind of humidity cycle, that is now really getting out of whack in many places. And that kind of increases the need for environmental monitoring, which is the use of various tools and techniques to really understand what is happening with the temperature, humidity, and other factors within the record storage areas of these places. Because if you, many of you probably have firsthand knowledge of this, but the more you have fluctuating temperature and humidity that's kind of going all over the place, the more that your archives can experience things like a mold outbreak or other things that can damage the records, and also present real concerning health hazards to the people who work with those archives. So it's not just the mold outbreak, but it's also what the costs can be for the staff. So two of our partners in this project, so Hilda from Puerto Rico and James from American Samoa, both of them are involved with active environmental monitoring of their collections areas. And so they were really gracious hosts for us. And so I asked them if they wouldn't mind participating in this webinar and kind of sharing some of their knowledge, because I think when you are doing environmental monitoring is one of these things that's like standard best practices. We all should be doing it. And also there are some challenges to doing it in some of these locations that might not be obvious to everyone else, or might be useful for those of us who don't have that experience of working in these island areas to understand what comes with that. So that's why I invited them to sort of lead the way on this webinar. We're keeping it very informal. So I asked them just to prepare like some brief content, however they want to structure that. It might just be some informal remarks about their particular experiences. And then we will kind of have some conversation and dialogue at the end and be out of here within the hour. That's my spiel, but before I turn it over to our speakers, I just wanted to take a beat and see if Helen wanted to contribute anything, or Joy, since I'm so glad you're here representing as the Executive Director of CoSA. If there's anything that you think is worth highlighting for the other participants before we move into the meat of our webinar.
I have nothing more to add. Just my thanks to both CoSA and our partners. It was eye-opening. I think, even though I come from a island state, and so I thought I was very aware of all the challenges that I would come across with their partners. It was still very eye-opening for, I think, Eira, myself, to just the intensity of what they're going through. And that doesn't mean that we can't all benefit from their experiences and their challenges, but especially how we can support them. I think that's my major, and I thank those of you who are from the lower 48 that are here, because I believe that they can learn a lot. You'll learn from them, but they can learn from you. Mahalo.
All right. Well, with that, I think, Hilda, would you like to go first? We will stay with the going from east to west theme.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much.
Great.
I'm very, very happy to be able to share with everybody today. And I'm just gonna start sharing my screen. I did something very simple, like Eira said, just an overview of what we are doing here at the General Archive related to environmental monitoring. Can you confirm that you can all see my screen?
Great, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Perfect. Thank you very much. So just a little putting everybody on the same page, just in case. That's where Puerto Rico is located, and we are the General Archive located in the islet of San Juan, the Old San Juan area. As you can see, we are surrounded by water twice. We are definitely in the tsunami zone area, and in case we need to run, there is some safe areas around here, but the archive is on the tsunami zone. Additional to that, we have hurricanes, earthquake, and most importantly, one of the most difficult things to work with in this 1873 building, it has to do with humidity and temperature control. Although we do have our environmental monitoring system implemented for a few years now, it's still very hard to control, but at least we are monitoring so we can learn from it and get better and prepare better for the years ahead. The General Archive, we are the most important archive in Puerto Rico, and our responsibility lays with everything that has to do with the public archives. We were established by the law number 5 from 1955. And like most of our archives, we have all kinds of formats inside our collections. We're about 90,000 cubic feet of documents, and they're distributed into 11 deposits around the building. We work with our program in 2020. In 2019, the General Archive went into a big upgrade to their climatization systems. We were able to acquire 2 new chiller units and install a temperature and relative humidity system, although it has not been implemented yet because of so many other problems that has come afterwards since 2020. But at least we can control the temperature in all the deposits and the areas where we manage collections. And in that year, we also established the environmental monitoring program using data loggers around the building. We currently have 26 on-set hobos. Those are the brands that we're using here at the General Archive. We have 3 different models. The first 2 models, the 03 and the 011, are mostly the same. The MX1104 is the only one that is different, and it is installed in the National Library. The reason why we need to have different monitoring systems is because this building is it's masonry, but the deposits are concrete, hard concrete. So even if we wanted to use the Bluetooth, the data would not pass. So we only have the Bluetooth system in the areas where there is glass and it's easy to access the content. It is great. You can actually just have an app and download it to your phone. But currently we have most of our hobos are the first 2 models, that they require a USB so you can extract the data, and you also need like a laptop so you can get the data inside the deposits. We work with the eClimate Notebook for software analysis. We currently have a subscription for up to 50 locations. We only have 26 right now, but we just ended an NIH grant funding, which was close by what's happening, but we were able to have 11 additional loggers into specific areas. We were studying how the environment works around our audiovisual collections. And also because most of our hobos are distributed into the deposits, we are implementing another monitoring system, which is the ambient weathers. These are not, they do not register the temperature or log it. They don't store the data. They are just easy way for us to see if something is going on. It is really cool because you have like a monitor that you can have like in your desk, and then the other three sensors, you can put them in separate areas. We have like a 50 feet reach around, and it helps us understand if something is going on right now, we can address it. One of the things that is interesting about the data loggers is that maybe we don't go inside our deposits every day. We only go there once a month, but with the ambient weather, at least we know we have a bigger panorama of what's going on in the building itself. And then if we need to worry about something, this is a great tool that we use. Like I comment, we do the monitoring program once a month. We have right now one contractor that tours the whole building. We have floor maps with the location of all the data loggers, and then he extracts the data. He also makes sure that the battery is up to charge. We kind of try to change it when it still has at least like 25% because we don't want any data loss. And also, as part of our environmental monitoring policy, we also do pest management. We have an IPI program that just started a few months ago, and we place traps in the deposits in specific areas. So whenever we are doing the tour, he's also checking how the traps are and what kind of bugs are entering the space. And we also use it to understand other problems that we may have. For example, maybe we only have one data logger in the whole deposit. The deposit is huge, but in one corner, we can see maybe a lot of spiders or ants, and that can give us a little bit of information of other problems that we may have in that specific deposit. And also the guy that does the touring, he notes any other preservation concerns that he may notice on his tour, so we can address it either immediately or like in the future. And how we do it is that I put it here. This is our little chat. So whenever he goes on touring, he would put it, if he sees anything, he would put it on the chat, and that way also we have another report, and he also sends it in the email and whatever is that he finds with the reports that we extract from the eClimate notebook. Here are some of the pros and cons. Definitely can talk a little bit more about it. Definitely hobos are more economical. I used to work in another institution with the PEM data loggers, and they were great, but they were really out of my budget right now. So we talk with, I believe, like one of the best environmental connoisseurs of this side of the world, which is Jeremy Linden. And through Jeremy, we learn about these data loggers and have worked with it for over 5 years, and they're really good. They're very simple. All you need is a laptop and a USB, and you extract the data, and it doesn't only come out in the software system. You can also export it as a node or as a CSV, and you can import it into different systems. And also it comes with a free software. It also has an alternative that you can pay for a one purchase, so you can have a better license. We did use it, but it's more like science, that kind of the HoboWare software. And I like more how eClimate, because it's designed for institutions like us. Some of the things that are not really great is that you need a laptop if you want to get the data. We have a very big building, and I don't love to take the hobos out of the deposits, because although I'm only losing data maybe for like 1 hour or 2 hours, maybe I just don't like to mess with it. So we bring the laptops inside. The Bluetooth only works for open spaces because of the limitations of the communication, and the battery, it dies very quickly. And also, they do not like rechargeable batteries. They're not made for rechargeable batteries. We tried that, and I thought, I broke it and it was just the battery. So I had to put like a normal battery. So that's a lot of contamination. In terms of the eClimate notebook, we currently pay for the subscription, but they have a free version, only like for 3 locations. But also you can work with multiple formats. It not only reads the hobo, it can read the PEM, it can read the I have another one that I always forget the name. I'll remember it later. Because all you need is a CSV and you can import the data. And it also helps you create these nice reports. I put a simple image on the far right. It gives you information about like the date or time frame where you want to see, the location where you're looking into the data. You can also do comparisons, and then you can see what kind of risk your collections are exposed to depending on the temperature and the relative humidity of that time. And it's very easy to read. You can explain to your superiors what's going on. It's simple. Red is bad, green is good. But it also gives you information. So it works as an educational tool. So they actually understand what it's like to have a natural decay, or what is a mechanical damage, what it will do to your collections. And in terms of the cons, well, if you have a lot of data loggers like us, you definitely need to purchase the bigger subscriptions, and it is subscription based, contrary to the HoboWare software that you have it on your laptop and it's like forever. This one, each year you have to pay, so you can actually use the software. Just so you know, if you don't renew it, you don't like lose your data. Once you pay it again, all your data will be there. And if there is a problem with the electricity or the internet, well, you cannot access it. So those are things that you have to consider when you're on environments like ours that they're so challenging. And here's an example of what we do with the data. This was part of our proposal that we work with the AV collection. And you can see here how uneven and unstable are the collections. In October 2023, we had a power outage in the building that took us out of services for like 4 months. And here you can see all the different changes. And then what we did is that we tried to match it with the different activities that we were doing in the building, and how we were getting better every day, every little bit of time, and where did we reach like a nice stability. You can see here that we have 2 chunks of times that we actually got like a nice way that the environment was behaving. But then again, in here, you can see that we have a high peak because we had another electricity problem, and it broke again our refrigeration system. And just to finish, here are some of the other weather and climate conditions that we deal with in Puerto Rico. In summer, we have learned through the evaluation of our building and how it behaves that it will always condensate. So we will try to work with our air conditioning units and put it a little bit more hotter inside, trying not to reach the dew point, and then we found some holes in our fresh air that is in the ceiling of the building that was bringing hot air inside, and it was also increasing the humidity in the area. So we found the holes and we sealed them. So far this year, no condensation. It has taken us almost like 3 years to actually make it work. But we also have different problems with our like the fan coils, all the condensation, what is used to cover all the pipelines are old, and every once in a while we get condensation from the second floor, from the air units from the second floor to the first floor. So we have learned that if we turn off the machines, the water goes away. And one thing that we have noticed related to climate change also is that we are getting more like heavy rains that are like heavy, fast, out of nowhere, and we get different filtrations around the building. That is like one of the last ones that we had. It was a Friday. I always have my boots around. You never know when you need them. And we just finished updating all of our emergency kits, and they have all the materials that we use to deal with these kinds of emergencies. So that's my little chat. If you have any questions, I will be more than happy just to answer.
Thank you so much, Hilda. I definitely want people to think of questions they have, and what I'd like to do is suggest that we hold them till the end so that we can hear from James too, and then we'll go into questions. So thank you so much. That was I think a really great overview too for people who might be new and trying to figure out where to start. And I love the timeline you had there where it kind of shows like, here's what was happening elsewhere when this particular peak happened. I think that was really brought it home. James, you want to go ahead and tell us how you're handling this in American Samoa?
Sure. I'll have to be very informal. I really hadn't prepared a presentation like Hilda's wonderful presentation. That was quite a exposition of all the factors that are going on in Puerto Rico's archives. That's really an incredible system you have there. Our system in American Samoa is very basic. You know, we just basically have a small record storage building for our archives and records. And our controlled environment is really basically just AC air conditioning. And so we were lucky to get help from the Conserve company last year through a CoSA, on one of the CoSA webinars. I think we learned of the availability of some Conserve monitors. And so we were lucky enough to get some Conserve monitors to install throughout our building to monitor, to take readings. And so we got 6 monitors and we placed them in the building back in September last year. So we've only had them for like less than a year. And the monitors are really great. They record the temperature and the humidity every day. I was able to do a summary report the other day using their data analysis tools with the Conserve system. And it showed the ranges. We're basically not in the 68-degree perfect temperature range for archives and records. We're more like towards the edge. Our average temperature was like 80 degrees actually. And given that our records we don't have any old records like Puerto Rico. I mean, our records are only from the 60s up, actually. We have some earlier records back to 1900, but basically the government records only go back here in the archives to the mid 60s. And so we're lucky in that those records are relatively preservable at these temperatures. And so the Conserve monitoring equipment was very useful in learning and knowing about the temperature and humidity ranges for the last year. The other thing that we got from Conserve was a water monitoring device where we were able to place it and track if there were any water leaks. And so we put it in our most vulnerable area and it recorded the water leaks. We were able to see several significant events from since last year, since September 24, that helped us realize that these were our difficult area to monitor. And so good Conserve equipment has been very useful, and we really appreciate getting that help through CoSA. I don't have much else to say. I don't know if we have enough time. Maybe I'll turn it back to you, Eira.
Sure. We still have plenty of time too. So I can always, I'm always full of questions. So I can always tee up some questions, but because we have some folks who maybe are less in touch with what's going on as part of this project, do we have any questions from the audience or anyone listening in? Or if anyone has any kind of things they have learned from their own environmental monitoring experiences they want to share.
Hi, I guess I can talk about our building, which is still relatively new, but the failures it had in its first 3 years with our, oh golly, heat exchange system, which was actually used to cool the building, and its failure. We did have 2 different heat exchangers that were not made of marine grade steel, and 3 wells sunk around the property so that it could bring in the air, and we could use that instead of electricity to help regulate our internal temperatures of our building. Unfortunately, we're very close to the saltwater. We are actually built on top of 100-year-old mining tailings, which were put into our channel, which is at sea level. And so we had saltwater and all kinds of other heavy metals come into our system, and it degraded the steel for our systems. And there was a complete failure of both systems around the same time, which meant, of course, being in a remote location, there was no way to install chillers. You had to get the money, since we're all government entities, to replace these systems. And so we went with a year without environmental chillers for our vaults. What we learned was that we did get dehumidifiers and such to help, but we pretty much held our temperature. The mass of our 30,000 cubic feet in one vault really did help hold. I mean, we rose 5 to 8 degrees, but we did hold our temperature pretty well without huge fluctuations like you saw in Puerto Rico. But we did have a significant input. We also have a really, we're called state-of-the-art environmental monitoring system. But unfortunately, we can't export that information out. The archives doesn't get to see that information on a regular basis. And so we're not keeping the documentation in a way that we can see our temperature and humidity controls on a daily basis. Luckily, I do get in to take a peek at that type of information since I'm what's called our building management team, so I have access to those systems. But otherwise, we've not been able to find a way to export that information out and find a place to maintain that information. So I'm really interested in what both, James and Hilda are doing to maintain that.
Thanks, Karen. We had a couple of questions come in on the chat, so I will just read them out for the benefit of anyone who's not currently at their computer. So James, there was a question from Christina who was curious that their conservators were curious what the relative humidity was when your temperatures were averaging 80.
If I recall correctly, I think they were, I'll have to look, I'll have to look again to see, but I know that they were not at a sustainable recommended level of preservation. they were actually warmer. Except in one particular area, we had really good humidity readings. They were, I think they were at 68%. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back to the data and look at it. But generally, our humidity readings were not perfect. And here in Samoa, the humidity is 100%. I mean, you step off the plane here when you come here and you're just enveloped in a steam bath of moisture because the air is saturated with water. And so that's why here at the American Samoa Archives, it's really important to keep our ACs going, our air conditioners going. We were on the verge of getting a HVAC installed through ARPA funding. We were hoping to get the HVAC installed this year, this year. But then we've encountered problems about the weight of the HVAC, installing it on the roof. And then we're looking at installing it outside, adjacent to the building, as a alternative way of getting a really good AC system. And because our temperature ranges, the humidity as well as the temperature were not perfect.
Thank you, James. Yeah, I think that I think it's so important for people to really consider how, like, when you're in these island environments, it's just inherently going to be extraordinarily humid, especially at the latitude, you know, that both you and Hilda are at. So, you know, certainly to the degree in which those conditions can be regulated, that's great, but also it's like very energy intensive to be constantly regulating at that level. And as we know, many of the places that we have visited are also places, I think Puerto Rico is probably the biggest example of this, are places with very fragile electricity grids. So yeah, it's you know, people are doing the best they can with what they have. Joy had a question for both of you, which is, how hard was it to receive the monitoring equipment to your facilities? And have you had any challenges with support for the hardware and software? This is another big part of, for those who are kind of new to the project, this was a big theme of our work, is how difficult it can often be to get supplies and equipment out to these locations. So Hilda, if you want to tackle this first, and then James can.
Thank you. So one of the when we began working with the environmental monitoring, we actually did it with the assessment of Jeremy Linden preservation. And one of the things that he noted was definitely that we needed an equipment that would be easy for us to find. And most of the equipment, we bought it directly from Grainger. We looked for models that were the ones that we needed. Grainger had them. We had here a great services from Grainger. And in terms of the support, we haven't work with the support yet. This year we are supposed to send the loggers for recalibration, because every 5 years they have to be recalibrated, so they're working well. So we'll see how that goes. But we had I only had to call the company once, and that's when I thought I broke them, and it was just because I used a rechargeable battery, and they answered very fast. It was really, really great, and they understood the problem, and they guide me very well to work with it. So I think that in that specific item, because it's like this big, we didn't have any issues to actually get it here in Puerto Rico, install it, and all those things.
We didn't have any problems getting the conserve equipment. It was relatively easy, matter of phone calls and emails, and it came through in the mail. It was pretty easy to set them up. They were basically simple little stick-on devices that we attached at strategic spots throughout our building to record. It was very easy actually. what was difficult was learning all the tools that are on the Conserve website. I mean, there's a multitude of resources that Conserve offers. And so I haven't had a lot of time to do it. I gave it to one of our associates to do, and he's been trying to understand it. But there are some language barriers. We are predominantly first language Samoan speakers here in the islands. And so there some difficulty in figuring out all the different ways of interpreting data. And so, you know, we were able to look at the charts and see the fluctuations, the events that occurred, especially the rain events. I mean, it was really stormy. We've had several really bad windstorms over the last several months, heavy rains. We're lucky we didn't get any hurricanes last season. We're out of the hurricane season. And so we've been fortunate in that we haven't encountered that this year, but that's something that is always there. We're in the hurricane zone, so it's inevitable probably in the future that we get one. But we've been lucky so far this year, or up to now.
I think
I hope
in
that answers.
addition,
Yeah.
oh,
No.
Mahalo, James. I think in addition to, you know, the easy to procure things that are not quite so heavy, if any of the partners could discuss the shipment of the time and the cost of getting bigger equipment, you know, for your systems. And I know Karen has issues as well because things due to her location, it's very costly as well. So it's not like they could just truck it up to her. So would you, with the three of you, or even Ray, you know, talk about the expense and the challenges of getting the type of equipment? Like in Karen's case, you know, you've got big chillers that are, or heaters, I should say, that are not functioning correctly. Because they didn't think about the marine grade. But I know when we spoke with all of you at the sites, you know, you did mention that those were challenges as well that I think a lot of people don't really think about. That and the servicing of things.
Yes, that really is an important factor, is getting equipment. The Conserve equipment was relatively easy to get because it was basically just a small box sent through the mail. And so that was relatively simple. But getting larger resources like in HVAC, for example, that would be a really heavy duty piece of equipment to send in. And since we're a little island out in the South Pacific, you know, like 2,000 miles from the nearest market, practically, it's difficult. We can only get things via ship, sometimes on the cargo planes, but it's relatively rare. I mean, cargo costs an arm and a leg for anything now. It's been really costly, especially now with the tariff situation that's been going on. We're seeing that things are going to be costing us more. We're actually working on an ARPA grant to get some of this equipment, and it looks like you know, it's increasing. It's going to cost us more than it would to anyone on the continent. I mean, it's easy on the continent. You can just ship it by truck or, you know, UPS, and it's there. But out in the islands, it's very difficult to get equipment quickly or even get it because of the weight and shipping and fees and customs fees. You know, it's very difficult.
I can do a comparison very quickly. So I had no problem getting my hobo here. They're tiny, and you know, we have a Granger in San Juan. I mean, in Cataño, it's very near here. But I have been waiting over 3 months to get some special ladders that I bought for like reaching like up to 7 feet in the shelving. I'm still waiting, and every time I follow up, it's like, what's going on? And they say like, oh no, it's like it's maybe on the next shipment, or they don't really put any pressure into getting the stuff here, and they don't understand that my budget just cut out on the 30th, and I was supposed to have that equipment here because it needs to be registered with my previous budget. So currently I have a problem with that, and I have a similar problem. Maybe this one is only like a bit worse because it's 4 months waiting to get a projector for changing the one that we have in the amphitheater. So yes, shipping, things that are expensive or heavier do tend to take forever to get to Puerto Rico.
And I echo, again, both James and Hilda. We, if it's a very large shipment, like new HVAC systems, not only, you're told, okay, it can ship now, but then it might sit in the port, in our case, the Port of Seattle, for a month or two until they've decided there's space that they can send it up. Food shipment on the barge and emergency supplies or medical supplies are more important than our HVAC systems. And we only have basically one barge per week come to Juneau. It arrives every Monday, so we know by Tuesday whether something has arrived or not. Our chillers took 3 months from the Port of Seattle on, but another thing you don't think about is potential strikes at ports also hold up shipped goods. And so that's when, for our case, they prioritize what gets shipped up on a plane versus what sits in the port waiting to come up. So, and we just learned today too about tariff increases. We're trying to get an HVAC system for our museum in Sitka, and we're now going to go over budget because of the tariffs. That, of course, yeah. so, but yeah, you have to deal with the ports that we are getting our shipments out of, on top of the fuel surcharges, the new tariffs coming, and then reprioritizing of things based on need.
Well, I'd like to thank all of thank Hilda and James especially for their contributions today, and for everyone else who was able to come. Thank you so much for your engagement. We really appreciate both Hilda and James sharing their knowledge and everyone else participating. Before we sign off, I want to make a couple of kind of short announcements about sort of what's happening next for the CoSA AWARE project. And Joy, if there's anything that you want to add on to what I say, let me know. But as part of the project, so there actually will be a second webinar that Helen and I are doing next week about professional development opportunities. It is specifically targeted for the CoSA AWARE site partners, but it's it's a CoSA webinar, so anyone's welcome to attend. So that is happening Tuesday, July 15th, same time as now. So that registration link hopefully is available through CoSA's channels. I know I've sent it out to the AWARE partners. Helen and I are working on a final report that is summarizing the findings that we have had from this experience. So that will be coming sort of once CoSA does its design and magic with it. So I don't have an exact date for that, but hopefully not too far out. And then for anyone who is part of the Society of American Archivists, actually, I don't think you need to be an SAA member. Helen and I are presenting about the CoSA AWARE project at the SAA Research Forum, which is taking place online on Wednesday, July 23rd at the 1:35 to 2:20 Central Time session. So if you go on SAA's website and look for the research forum, we are presenting in day 1 if anyone wants to see us talk more about this project. And Joy, I will hand it over to you if there's anything final you want to say to close us out.
Yes, I had to unmute myself. But yes, thank you again to Hilda and Jim and Eira and Helen, Karen for your contributions, and all of our project partners for their participation. This project was really an outcome of a vision out of the CoSA community of this need to highlight our territorial members and those who are dealing with situations that are different than most everybody in the contiguous 48 states. And I have just been really, my eyes have been open so much in hearing the reports from each of the visits and understanding the impact that taking the time to visit and get to know the situation and the leaders and how those can be tools for advocacy and moving forward. This was designed as a planning project. I am still optimistic that in this final report, we can really vision what might come next in these spaces and continue to be partners in advancing archives to our furthest flung members and how that can apply even locally at home. So thanks for your time, everybody, and I hope that you all have a great evening or day. Ray's not here anymore. He's in the future still, but whatever time of day it is.
He's probably bringing his kids to school.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. All right. Take care,
Thank you,
everyone. Thank you
everybody.
so much.
Thank you so far.